Well, hey, Bridge Church, welcome to step 2 of our growth track curriculum. Hopefully you have watched step 1. If not, I'd encourage you to pause this, go back and watch step 1. Pastor Josh gives an overview of the Bridge Church, how we operate, and all those great things. So make sure that you watch step 1. This is step 2. What's about to happen, I want to help you fill in a couple of blanks, and then you're going to take 2 tests. The first test that you're going to take is found within this packet that you can either download, which I'd encourage you to print off if you're able to. You can either type in the answers or you can print it off and you can fill it in with pen or pencil. I would encourage you to print it. That way you are able to do this personality test a little bit easier. If not, you can grab a piece of paper and do the answers on these as well. So this personality test that you're going to take is the DISC personality test, and I'll talk about that in just a moment. I want to give you some blanks here within this packet before we move on to take these 2 tests that you're about to take to discover your gifts and personality. In Ephesians chapter 4, so I'm in step 2, should be about page 25, 26 in your booklet there. Hopefully you downloaded it. It looks like this. It should be pulled up in a window in your computer or you've printed it off. You can take a moment to do that if you'd like. But page 25 is the beginning here of step 2, and this is all about discovering your gifts. And so this is going to be an amazing moment for you if you've never taken a spiritual gifts test, never taken a personality test. You're going to get to do that here today and discover just how God has wired you. So I'm looking forward to it for you. I'm excited for you. Ephesians chapter 4, verses 11 and 12 at the top of this page here on discovering your gifts says, "Now these are the gifts that Christ gave the church." That word gifts there comes from the Greek word charis, where you see the word charismatic come from. Now charismatic doesn't mean crazy. It just means that you know your gift, that you know your grace gift that God has given you. It's something you're designed to do. Number 1, it's easy for you to do. Number 2, it touches people's lives. And 3, it's fulfilling. That's what a spiritual grace gift is. Something that comes naturally to you that God has given to you to do, that it's fulfilling in your life and it makes a difference for people. So that first blank there, I'll actually continue to read the verse though. It says that God gave the apostles, the prophets, the evangelists, the pastors and teachers their responsibility. So your pastor, Pastor Josh, Pastor Caleb, myself, Pastor Andrew, your pastor, our job is to equip you to do work. So you may be watching this thinking, now wait a minute, I'm not in ministry, I'm not a pastor, I'm not a preacher. Well, you are called to ministry. We are all in ministry. We talk about that quite a bit in step 3's video, but you are called to ministry, and our job as pastors is to equip you to do the work of the ministry. So that first blank there, number 1, that first blank is my gifts and my passions. My gifts and my passions. The best place for you to serve people and make a difference in people's lives is to be in an area that you're gifted in. So speaking of serving in the church, if you're passionate about kids and their growth in Christ, then obviously your gifting is more than likely going to be in kids ministry, and we'll see that. Or maybe you walk into a room. Maybe you walk into a room and you see chairs all lined up, but they're not lined up in perfect rows, and it drives you crazy. And so that would be an administrative gift, that you see those chairs and you think, I have got to straighten those up. Or maybe you're great with spreadsheets. That would be an administrative gift. Or maybe you walk into that same room and you don't notice the chairs, but you notice one person sitting off alone, and it just breaks your heart. And so you go and you talk to that person, or you introduce yourself, or you sit with them, invite them to sit with you. Then you have the gift of compassion. And so what we want to help you do is to discover what gifts you have. Maybe you've already known somewhat about this, but you didn't know what the gift was. And so you're going to learn about that here shortly. So we want to help you discover your gifts and your passions, number 1. And then number 2 is my life experience. So that second blank there is my life experience. What happens is we see life according to our experience, okay? So we may be really good at technical things, like we're really good at wiring or some other technical thing, maybe sound, right? Well, then maybe we're going to serve on the production team. Or maybe we're really great at figuring out how to get traffic flow into church on a Sunday morning better. Well, that's an administrative gift. Everyone has something that they can use, that God has given them, a spiritual gift that they can use to serve people and to serve the Lord. That's what we're all called to do in ministry, is to serve people and serve the Lord. And so we're going to discover our gifts and passions. We're going to discover it through our life experience. And then there's a third way that we can discover our gifts. And that's through, unfortunately, that bottom blank there is my pain. My pain. We can serve the Lord and serve people through pain. 2 Corinthians 1, 3-4 says that all praise to God, the Father of our Lord Jesus Christ. God is our merciful Father and the source of all comfort. He comforts us in all our troubles so that we can be a comfort to others. When they are troubled, we will be able to give them the same comfort that God has given us. And so you might have gone through something that you're going to be able to help comfort someone else in the same way that God has comforted you. I've got baggage, I've got issues, I've got pain, God can't use me. Well, guess what? You're not disqualified because of your baggage, your pain, your resume, your past. God doesn't disqualify you through that. You're qualified through your resume. You're qualified through your past because God has brought you through some things. A drug addict, the best person that could help a drug addict break free from that is somebody who's been through that, not someone who hasn't. I couldn't help a drug addict because I've never been through it. I don't know what it's like to be stuck into that. But someone who has is able to help somebody who's going through that. God can use your past, your baggage, no matter what it is, no matter how imperfect your past is. God can use you to make a difference for his kingdom and for his people. And you're going to learn a whole lot about that in step 3. So I'd encourage you to move on after this and watch step 3. But I want you to know that your pain, your past, does not disqualify you from serving the Lord and serving people. So moving on to page 26, design reveals destiny. We want you to find that thing. The reason it's design is God has designed you. God has wired you. He has motivated you in a certain way. And we want you to find the thing that God has created in you and gifted you in so that you can serve him and make a difference. And Psalm 139 is a great example of this. Psalm 139 verses 13 and 14. King David says, "You made all the delicate inner parts of my body and knit me together in my mother's womb. Thank you for making me so wonderfully complex. Your workmanship is marvelous. How well I know it." So David thanks God for his uniqueness. He recognizes that God made him unique, just like God made you unique and God made me unique. David recognizes that and he thanks God for it. And he says how marvelous it is and how well I know it. Most people can't say how well they know the way that God designed them. But after today, here in step 2, you're going to be able to thank God for how well you know his design in your life. And so we want to help you do that through these 2 tests that you're going to take. And so I want to give you these 3 blanks here real fast. There's 3 of them. We're going to help you discover my gifts. So that's the first blank, discover my gifts. Secondly, we'll help you develop my gifts. And that developing takes place in step 3. And then finally, that third one is to use my gifts. And that really takes place where the real joy is the most fun part, is where you get to use the gifts that God has given you. And that really takes place in step 4 and beyond as you begin to serve and use the gifts that God has given you. So if you do not know how God has designed you and wired you, today is your day. So the first test that you're going to take is a DISC personality test. Okay, it's on page 27 here in your book. And what you're going to see, I'll point it out here, is you'll see these boxes here, these questions and these prompts. And so what you're going to do, that first box there on that page where it says 1 total, there's a little box. That first box is the letter D. So you'll put the letter D there. The second box next to number 2 where it says total on that page is the letter I. The third is the letter S. And the fourth is the letter C. That's DISC. This is the DISC personality test that you're about to take. It's going to give you a prompt. For instance, I am assertive, demanding, and decisive. That first prompt there you see. I am assertive, demanding, and decisive. What you're going to do is if that never, if you are never that way, if you are always the opposite of that prompt. So you read, I'm assertive, demanding, and decisive, and you go, that's not me. I take forever to figure things out. Then you're going to put 1 there for never, or maybe 2 for rarely. Or if you read that prompt, I'm assertive and demanding, and I make decisions quickly, then you're going to put a 5 for, yeah, always. That sounds like me. And so you're going to put the answer to what best sounds like you. Now, don't put what you hope to be someday, what you hope to develop in you someday. So if you're someone who's not decisive, but you wish you were, don't put a 4 or 5, put a 1 or a 2, depending on your life. So make sure that you're answering honestly on these questions, not what you hope to be someday in the future. So then what you'll do is you'll go through all these prompts and then you'll total them up in each section. So the letter D, there's 5 prompts. You'll total those numbers up. You'll add those numbers, and where it says total, you'll write your total there. And then when you've done that for all 4 sections, D, I, S, and C, you're going to look at your top answer, or maybe you've got 2 that are tied. So maybe you've got a tie in 2 areas. Then you're going to look at those top 2. And you're going to be able to turn then on page 29, 30, and so on, and you're going to see these paragraphs that have the letters. So the letter D or the letter D/I. And whatever your top 1 is, or your top 2, if they're really close, just 1 point off, or they're tied, then you can look at D/I or D/S. You can look at it and you can read that paragraph, and that explains your personality in detail. And then underneath that paragraph, you'll see a couple of biblical characters that have the same personality traits that we can see in Scripture. So that's what you want to do here for this personality test. And the reason are that this test shows there's 4 personality types and their unique characteristics. We're all created either to be more people-focused or more task-focused. And so we're going to help you discover whether you're more people-focused or more task-focused. So if you start to take this test and you have further questions, rewind this video a little bit, watch it again, and if you have further questions, you can shoot us an email. We can help you try to understand your personality a little bit more. But that's what you're going to do for this personality test. So go ahead and take that right now, pause this video, and then once you've taken this personality test, we will move on to the spiritual gifts test. So hit pause, take that personality test, and then come back. All right, hopefully you've just taken the personality test. Now it's time for your spiritual gifts test. You have 2 options on the spiritual gifts test that you can take. One last thing on the personality test that you just took that I want to point out is that what we want you to know is there are strengths and weaknesses with every personality type. Not one is better than the other, but this helps you to have a better understanding of how you operate, as well as how other people operate, how they're wired with their personality. So we just want to make sure that you know that as you move forward now, understanding your personality a little bit. And then on page 32 and 33, you're going to see some more about making the most of your personality style. So take some time to check that out and read that. Now, your spiritual gifts test, there's 2 options. You can take the electronic version that's on our website, or you can take the paper version that's here in this booklet. I personally like this paper version one. I think it's a little bit better and a little bit more clear, but you can do one or you can do both, the electronic and the paper, completely up to you. If you decide to do this paper version, there's going to be 72 statements or prompts, and the prompts are on page 35. And then the answer sheet is on page 37. You'll see 126. This is the answer sheet of that test. So on number 1, you're going to go top to bottom as you go through these 72 statements. Number 1, I like organizing services and events. On the number 1 line there on page 37, if you don't like to organize services or events, then you put the number 1 there for almost never. There's only 3 options on this spiritual gifts test. 1 is almost never, 2 is sometimes, and 3 is almost always. So if you read the prompt, I like organizing services and events, and you say, you know what, yeah, I do like to organize events or plan parties or whatever, then yeah, put a 3 for almost always. I enjoy that. Or if you read it, I like organizing services and events, and you go, you know what, I'm not a planner. That's not me. I don't enjoy that. And put the number 1. You'll go top to bottom and you'll put the answers to all that. And then at the very end, when you're done with all 72, you're going to total across. So on that answer sheet, you see 1, and then to the right of it is 25, and to the right of that is 49. You're going to total across. You're going to write the total down in that total blank sheet there. And then at the end, you're going to look at your highest ones. You'll have maybe 1 or maybe 3 that have 9 as your total. Maybe you'll have a couple that have 8 as your total. Those highest ones are your spiritual gifts. So if you have any that are totaled up to 9, then that's a spiritual gift of yours. So then you can look on the next page and see administration, apostleship, craftsmanship, discernment, and they all have a letter before them, the letter A, the letter B. The reason for that is we didn't want to make it confusing to see all the spiritual gifts and then see gifts you don't have. So if you have a 9 somewhere, look at that letter. So for instance, if 1, 25, and 49 at the very top of this answer sheet, the letter A, if that's a 9 or an 8 for you, then that's a spiritual gift of yours. So you look at the letter A on page 39, administration is the letter A's gift. Or maybe the letter L down in the middle of the sheet. Maybe the letter L is your gift. So you look at page 39, 40, okay, 41, the letter L is intercession. So you can write intercession, and maybe that's your spiritual gift. So there's 72 statements. Again, be honest with how you are right now. Don't put always for something that you don't do because you want that characteristic. Be honest with yourself as you answer these 72 statements and you take this test. And know that you're not going to score high on every one. You're not going to score a 2 or a 3 on every single one. Nobody does, okay? It's all right that you don't. Look at your top scores. Most people will have multiple gifts, and you should see a direct correlation between your gifts and your personality. So go ahead and take that test now. You can pause the video, you can take the test, or you can actually just finish this video, because your next step, once you've taken your gifts, once you've discovered your gifts here in step 2 by taking this test, your next step is step 3. You can continue on and watch that next, or you can come back to it another day. But go ahead and take that test, whether you do it electronically or in this booklet. We appreciate you going through step 2 of the growth track. Hopefully this all makes sense. We appreciate you guys. Hope you have a fantastic day. We'll see you at step 3.